Hi, folks. My name is Eric Herdman. I'm an organizational development expert. What that means is I help teams with their leadership, relationships, communication, delegation, productivity. Today, I wanted to talk to you about the benefits of virtual learning. I've been a professional speaker for almost 32 years, but since March 13th of 2020, I've done 1,193 virtual presentations. And that's what I want to focus on today. So I know both sides of this. I know the in-person type of presentation that we all attend. I also know a lot about the virtual learning space. So the three benefits of virtual learning, in other words, attending a webinar or a webinar series. Number one, you can learn without compromising your productivity. What that means is you don't have a commute. You don't have to take time away from work and travel, maybe a lengthy commute, park, go inside the facility, find a seat, get situated, and then when that event's over, you got to commute back home or back to work. Nope, virtually, the reminder pops up on your screen that the webinar is about to start in a minute. You click into that webinar, you attend it, and guess what? When it's over, you click out and you're right back to work. I think all of us agree that is a top benefit to virtual learning. Saves a lot of time. Number two benefit to virtual learning. You get real interactions from all the participants. We talk a lot about engagement in virtual learning, right? Engagement. And engagement is not done by forcing people to engage, demanding, calling on people. We don't do that. We get that participation. We get that engagement in the virtual space because for a lot of folks, it's more comfortable for them to engage and interact with each other. For example, I can put one question out to the whole group. You can think about how you want to answer that question, type that up, look at it, and send it up into the chat. And then you're entering the discussion, and we have a list of things happening in that chat. But it's not just a chat. We have other engagement tools that we don't always have in the in-person learning experience. For example, we have the virtual hand raising. Oh, wait a minute, you can raise your hand in person, but not everybody's comfortable doing that. But virtually, you just hit the button, your hand goes up, and we go, okay, 7 people out of our 25 do that, or 7 people agree with that, and that sort of thing. People are more willing to engage and participate virtually because it's just much more comfortable for them. We have additional engagement tools in addition to the chat and the hand raising. We have polls. We can take real-time polls. And the best thing about a poll in a virtual learning space is it's not some peer-reviewed Harvard metadata study that may not relate to your industry. Those are the folks that are in your industry, in the webinar, participating in that poll. So that data is real. That's folks just like you. And the data you're looking at is just that. It's from the folks that are just like you. We can use collaborative whiteboards. Again, if you think about it in person, the whiteboard's at the front of the room. The instructor invites you to come up and write something down on the whiteboard. Not everybody's comfortable doing that. Guess what? Virtually, it just pops up on your screen. It's right there. And you can type it up or write it out and look at it before you submit it and enter it to the whiteboard. People are much more comfortable with that. We get a lot of collaboration. We get a lot of participation in whiteboard activities in our event. We even use apps like Slido or Mentimeter or Kahoot to do brainstorming, what are called word cloud activities, where you can submit an answer to a prompt. So there's a prompt on the screen, a question on the screen, and you can answer that anonymously. That's nice, right? You can answer that anonymously, and then we have everybody's ideas there. You can see how it's much more friendly, much more comfortable for folks to participate virtually. We also, periodically, will use breakout rooms. This is also nice because it gets us into a smaller group of people, like-minded individuals, where we're in a smaller group. We have a chance to talk with each other, ask questions to each other, really elaborate on things. And we don't get caught up a lot of times in the groupthink of a big room and kind of seeing a pattern emerge and kind of think, well, that's the way it's kind of going to go. When you're in a breakout room, you have the ability to just get with 2 or 3 or 4 folks and just kind of communicate and hash things out, as they say. And a lot of times in the breakout room, those discussions, those small group discussions, are very meaningful. And that's a lot of times where some of the deep learning takes place in a virtual event. But the chat brings us to benefit number 3. You get a set of diverse perspectives in the virtual learning space. What I mean by that is I present maybe 2 or 3 ways of doing something. And then I invite folks to come into the discussion, into the chat on how do you do it. All of a sudden now you got the 3 ways from the content that I just presented, plus sometimes you get a half dozen additional different ways, different perspectives on how to do that same thing. You know, I think we can all agree that a lot of what we do is not a one-size-fits-all approach. There's not just one way to do something. There's a lot of different ways to get to a suitable outcome, to achieve a goal, a desired result. And I can tell you virtually, you get that. You get a lot of things to consider. And you get your blind spots opened up. It's not a straight line thinking approach. It's more divergent. Not only is the presenter offering their content and their views and their perspective, but so are the participants. So talking about getting a different set of ideas or a wide variety of ideas, you're going to leave our events having a lot of things to consider and think about. How do I want to do it? Do I want to make a shift? Let me test that out. Let me try that out. You know, I talked to that person in a breakout discussion and they elaborated on how they do that. I got to start doing it that way. Virtually, you're going to get that. So when you leave the virtual event, you've got a wide variety of ideas, and I maintain sometimes more than even an in-person event. Again, please understand, there's nothing wrong with getting in a seminar room or a meeting room and having a live in-person training. That is awesome still. But virtually, we do have some things that just kind of set us up for a different level of success, and that is in that virtual learning space. One final comment on the chat. We talked about it as an engagement tool, and that's where people share those different perspectives. One thing that's nice about the chat, and I hear this time and time again, over 1,193 events, I can't even tell you how many times I've heard it. I like that it shows up written in the chat because I have a moment to write that down. I can scroll back up and look at something. I can copy and paste it out of the chat into my notes. So the chat is not just a tool for engagement. It's not just a place where we offer those the discussions and different perspectives, but it's a tool. It's a learning tool for you to have so that if you are caught up in a discussion and you miss something, you can just scroll back up in the chat and there it is for you. I could go on and on about the benefits of virtual learning. I could probably easily right now come up with about 25 benefits, but I won't. But those are the top 3, and those are no in particular order. But think about that. Think about attending one of our events, and what are the benefits to you as far as virtual learning? Is it about the productivity and the time saving? Is it that you want to have that engagement, you want to have that lively experience of a virtual event using the technology? Or is it all about those different perspectives? You know, that's what I like. I like getting different perspectives. I like options. Probably one of those benefits is really hitting home with you right now. So be thinking about that as you see our offerings for all of the virtual events that we're doing. Until next time, folks, take care of yourself so you can take care of each other, and I'll see you at the next virtual event.